Hey 6-8, happy Thursday. I forgot my little tripod adapter thingy, so it's going to be a little bit shaky again. So if you get motion sickness, you can just look away. Malachi chapter 3, verse 6, and we're going to talk about how this applies to my 6-8. I, the Lord, do not change, so you, descendants of Jacob, are not destroyed. Ever since the time of your forefathers, you have turned away from my decrees and have not kept them. Return to me, and I will return to you, says the Lord Almighty. But you ask, how are we to return? Will a man rob God? Yet you rob me. But you ask, how do we rob you? In tithes and offerings. You're under a curse, the whole nation of you, because you are robbing me. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven, and pour out so much blessing that you will not have room enough for it. I will prevent pests from devouring your crops, and the vines in your fields will not cast their fruit, says the Lord Almighty. Then all the nations will call you blessed, for yours will be a delightful land, says the Lord Almighty. How does this apply to my 6th day? Well, I think there's a couple of applications we can make. First, I think there's the application of just living a generous life. How do we, how does the world see us when we live generously, when we tithe, when we give? But that's kind of a radical thing to do for a non-believer to see us giving 10% of our income to the church. That's going to be a radical thing they're going to see us doing. That's going to say a lot about your faith. And then in our contributions, being generous, living generous lives will also speak volumes to those around us, to those 6 to 8 people God has put in our life, to those in our neighborhoods, our neighbors, our co-workers, our friends, and our family. When they see us living that kind of life, it's going to say a lot. So I think that's one way that this applies to my 6 to 8, that they just see us being generous. But another way is, it talks about how when we're tithing and when we're doing what we're supposed to be doing when it comes to our finances, that God will help our crops to flourish. God will keep the pests from devouring our crops. God will if we're giving to Him faithfully, then I think God is going to help ensure that we have the income to give to Him faithfully. And so they will see that we probably have less financial struggle. It doesn't mean things are going to go perfectly, but we'll probably have less struggle maybe compared to others around us, and others will notice that. They'll see that we have maybe more success in our work, more opportunities in front of us, more chances to earn more income, and so on and so forth. I'm not guaranteeing that. I'm not making promises that that's what's going to happen, but I think if we're faithful to give to what God has out of what God has already given to us, then I think God will trust us in giving us more. There's that passage, to whom much is given, much is required. If God can trust us in the little things, He can trust us in the big things. And I think those are some practical ways that the world around us will see us when we handle our finances according to God's standards and God's ways. That when they see us living that out, that they will want to. They'll be drawn into why we're doing those things, and when they see us thriving and succeeding because we're tithing and being generous, then that might help them to want to ask more questions as well. So live those principles out in front of your 6 to 8, those 6 to 8 people God has put in your life, your neighbors, your co-workers, your friends, your family, and see if they don't start asking questions about why you live the way you do. Have a great Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow for another tip.